Hey everyone, hopefully you're doing well this week and had a great President's Day weekend. I'm going to go over Garmin Connect Mobile today. Just the ins and outs of it. This is going to be probably more of a lengthy video. I will be putting the chapters for the main sections in here. I'm going to show you some tips and tricks and just all about Garmin Connect Mobile because I've been a Garmin fan for a long time. I actually use Garmin Connect every single day. And I do happen to have quite a few Garmin items that I've had over the years, and they just work and they just last very, very long. If you're not familiar, I did do a review on my Garmin Tactix 7 Pro. I will put a link up there for it, but it's just an amazing system. I love Garmin Connect. And you know, if you use something over years and years and years, you just have a lot of history in here. So I'm going to go through the main sections, how you work it, what are in each section, and kind of just go from there. So you can see here on the main page, I put it up on the screen. There are a couple different areas that you could see: training readiness, training status, heart rate, etc. Some of these are not going to be like completely up to date because my watch is not necessarily connected all the way to this particular device that I have, but I'm going to go through and show you how to do that as well. So as I scroll down here, you can just see the things that are available that I have did sync today on my iPhone, but there's a lot of stuff. And then also it goes through and does a full review of yesterday in more of a condensed form, so you could see any of those. And then also it does a condensed form for the last 7 days. Any of these particular items are actually clickable, so if you press your finger on any of them, it will go to a different section. On the main screen here, I'm just going to scroll up, and this collapse button that you see up on the top here, if you press that, it will make it so that everything is collapsible, including the day that you're in. Yesterday, as well as the 7 days, are already collapsed, so you could see that there. But I personally kind of like to see the collapsible version because it's all in one particular area. And then if I want to click into them, I could go and see some more data. So down here at the bottom, you'll see that it says My Day, Challenges, Calendar, Newsfeed, etc. And then it also says More. In those particular areas, those are actually customizable. So this is just like tip number 1. So if you click the More section, and then on the top right there, you see the Edit. Click Edit. You're going to be presented with a couple options. So just remember that the first screen that we were just on, let me go back there for a second, has Challenges, Calendar, and Newsfeed in those particular areas. So if you click on the More again, and then click Edit, you could figure out what you want in there. So some people don't even care about the challenges, so they don't really want to see them. So I'm just going to take the challenges out of there. I said, you know, I want to see my health stats up there first. In this area, there's only 3 that you can put there. So there's only 3 customizable areas in the version of Garmin Connect. It's always been this way, but you can move them around. A lot of people just don't know that you could actually move those around. So I have the calendar up here, newsfeed, and health stats. And with those 3 little lines, you could move them where you want them. So I'm going to put health stats first, newsfeed second, and then I'm going to put the calendar. So if I press save and now go back to the main area, you'll see at the bottom of the screen there where it has My Day, which you can't move that. That's just what that is. I have health stats, newsfeed, and the calendar. We're going to go into those a little bit more detail in another section, but I just kind of want to show you the first section. There is a little hint for you to actually do that. So if I click back on My Day, you see it goes to the main area. Any of these particular sections you could actually click in. So I'm going to click into heart rate here. It goes into the next section. And then if it's your first time using this, it will give you some helpful hints on how you actually navigate the sections. So of course you can scroll up and down if you'd like. On the top there is 1 day, 7 days, 4 weeks, 1 year, etc. And if you hold your finger over the chart and then just drag with your left finger or your right finger, or if you're right or left-handed, you could see your heart rate on the timeline. And then if I click on 4 weeks, it comes a little bit more high level. So the red is my high heart rate, and the blue there is my resting heart rate. Same exact thing. You can just press hold your finger over the graph and just scroll left to right. And then it will also do 1 year. So this is a lot of data, of course. I've been using Garmin Connect for a long time, so my data is in here. So if you see the little arrow to the left for by underneath the 1 day, if I press that, it's going to go back 1 year. So since I wear my watch basically like 24/7 and I don't hardly take it off, I only take it off to charge it. I just use it all the time. I have all of this history in here. So from February 25th, 2021 to February 23rd, 2022, my average resting heart rate was 54 for that entire year. My average higher heart rate was 116. If I click to the right here, now here's 22 to 23, 53, so it's a little bit better. And then I click over to the year we're in now. So my average resting heart rate is 55 beats per minute. I'm going to go back to the main screen. So if you click on the top left arrow, the blue one there, it goes up to the top section here. So that's kind of just how you navigate through these particular screens here on the My Day tab. I'm going to go into the More section next and just kind of show you some little settings areas, and then I'm going to set up my watch here just so I could show you how to do it. So if you click into More, there's a lot of different areas here that we're going to go over. Trust me, this is going to be a longer video, but you're definitely going to get a good idea of how to use it. So just at the bottom here, if you click into Garmin devices, these are the devices that are paired to this particular unit that you're using. So as you can see here up on the screen, I'm actually using my iPad to do this, and I'm just doing the screen share recording. But on my iPhone, which is just sit down here on the desk here, it will have a couple more devices because I have my watch paired to it. I have my my bike computer paired to it. So this is the only thing that's actually paired to the iPad at this time, which is the Garmin Index scale. And I love that thing because I technically weigh myself probably 3 or 4 times a week. Get on the scale, it does its thing, and it pushes it to Garmin Connect, and I don't even have to think about it. So then I can maintain and look at my weight over time, and we will get into that as well. And then on the bottom here, it will say sensors. So any type of sensor that you have registered to Garmin Connect, but that's not necessarily on this particular device that you're using now. So just remember that there's 2 different things. It could be registered, but it's just not on the device, or it could just be there. So if you want to add a device, you could just do add device here, and then you could pair your watch or whatever you want to do, and it will start to do that particular stuff. So I'm not going to actually do the whole process here because my watch is connected to my iPhone and I don't necessarily need that, but here's the next screen that you'll be presented with. It asks you which one you want to pick. Hey, I'm going to pick this, and it will go through and do the pairing process for you. For the most part, if it's a new device and it's in pairing mode when you first get it, you just click on here and it will automatically find it. You type in some code and you press pair, and you're basically off and running, which is really nice. So I'm going to go back. So that is the devices section. So next up is the settings area. So this is actually really nice because in the past you had to set up your watch or your bike computer or whatever straight from the watch. Now you could do a lot of settings in the app. So in here, in your settings, for your using settings, it will automatically connect to the watch if it is paired, which is super, super nice. But I'm going to go into these really quick just to kind of show you what they are and explain a little bit. So if I go into profile and privacy, this is your name. And then on your profile section, you could click into there and say, you know what, who do I want my profile visible to? Well, for me, I have it to my connections. If you want to be like super private, you could do only me. If you want to do your connections and groups or everybody, it's totally up to you what you want to do. Same thing with activities. Do you want to show your activities to everyone? Do you want to have a custom for just like, hey, I only want people to see this particular activity style or not? And do I want to update the past activities if you change any of this stuff. As I go back here, it's really, self-explanatory for everything else. You want people to see your steps? Do you want people to see your badges? Are there any authorized viewers, right, that have only view access? And any muted users, any blocked users, because if like you're willy-nilly and you just set it up and you don't have any privacy settings, there are people that might friend you. It's pretty rare. It's not Strava, but it's a little bit different. And you want people to tag you in here. Also too, like in your profile, if you have it like, hey, people could see my profile. If you had the things like clicked like, hey, you're going to show your gender, your height, your weight, etc. And then your personal records, last year, your Garmin device, those type of things. So if you really want this to just be private, you could just click everything off, have it good for you, and that's totally fine. If I go back to the next section here, I am going to go into the user settings. So this is pretty much everything that's set up that syncs to your watch. And since I have a Garmin index scale, every time I get on the scale, it actually syncs to my watch as well. And it syncs to the app. So you can see in here, I have all of my information and then your hydration level. If I click into there, you could set a goal for your hydration and what you usually drink out of. So you drink out of like a Yeti cup or Stanley, those type of things, you can do that. And custom stride length. I don't particularly do this, but if you want a better activity, you could set it to doing that. But I do find that GPS pretty much takes care of that. Go back here to the main section. So click on theme. This is just really for the app. Notifications. Do I want any push notifications or email notifications on from your phone? So this is like where that's particular set up. Email, same thing. And then connected apps. So this is an area where sometimes there's certain apps that push data to Garmin Connect or pull it from Garmin Connect. So if you have these particular accounts connected, it will show up here, and you could, if you connect them after the fact, they will automatically show up here too. And if you want to disconnect something, you could just go in here and say, you know what, I want to disconnect chronometer and disconnect, and then it will not push any of the activity data or the health data over there. In my case though, like when I get on the scale, it will push my weight over there and it will push some of my activities over there as well. And then in this particular section here on the settings, you have primary wearable, which is, this is the primary thing that I have for my device priority. And this is also my primary device, training device. So if I wanted to change it, I click in there and I say, you know what, I want my primary to be the Edge 1040. Well, I don't, because it's just my bike computer, and we can kind of go from there. And then last but not least, it has your information down here, and then also a bunch of legal stuff if you want to read that. The next section is help. So I'm going to go through a lot of this stuff rather quickly. However, if you wanted to see a little bit more about Garmin Connect Mobile features, you can click into there and it's going to take you to the web page, and then product support, online forums, etc. So there's a lot of areas in there. And then it just gives you like a high level of activity tracking and your fitness matrix, just so you know, like, hey, this is what it's doing. It talks a little bit about the Elevate based wrist heart rate sensor and those type of things. So those are pretty self-explanatory, but you can see that. Garmin Pay. If you want to do Garmin Pay, you just go in here and pay with your Garmin device, which it basically works just like Apple Pay. You can put a credit card in there, double click a button on your watch or whatever that you want to use for that, and then you could just touch your device to the pay station. But that is available if you want to see that. And then they also have some Garmin Golf stuff and Garmin Dive, which I'm not going to go over in this video, but I might do the Garmin Golf in another video. But Garmin Golf is really, really cool. And it pairs to your watch. It will show you how to do, how you hit, what your score was if you keep score on your watch. It's really, really awesome. I have a golf video on this about my watch a little bit, but I don't go into detail on the Garmin Golf, but it's really, really awesome. So on the top here, remember how we changed the edit. So these things will show up here in this particular area. If you change it, it's going to look a little bit different, but we're just going to go through them one by one, and I'm just going to show you the areas that are in there, what you can do, certain things. There's also a lot of stuff in here that is going to be very in-depth, and there's certain things I'm probably just not going to get to. So if you want to know something, just let me know. So I'm going to click into challenges. So this is kind of like little badges that you can get for doing stuff. And if you want to join them, all you have to do is say, you know what, my walk time in February, I'm going to join that one. If you want to see what it is, click into it. It will give you what the challenge is, when it's from, what it's for, and it's really just a little motivational thing that if you do walk or you do yoga or whatever, it's one of those things that it's kind of nice. It's really cool. And if I just kind of scroll down here, you could do challenges with your connections that you have on here. You could also create a challenge, join in a weekly steps challenge, etc., and then look at all of your past challenges. I don't do this as much as probably a lot of other people just because I've been lifting weights and doing a couple other things on my own. But I do like that they do have the challenges here, and at least they're there. And then sometimes they do like special challenges, like this one in particular, like Shocks leap year. So Shocks are the bone conducting headphones. I don't have any, but I know some people that do like them. So if you join this challenge, it ends February 29th. You got to record 10 activities, 29 minutes each, and then they will send you a 15% off code for headphones. Like, hey, you know what? If you're going to work out anyways and you are interested in the Shocks headphones, why not? Might as well do it. I haven't signed up for it, but you kind of go from there. But you get the idea on challenges. It's pretty self-explanatory. The next one I'm going to go into is activities here. So there is a lot. I'm not going to go through all the activities, kind of what you see from them, but there are so many activities that you can look at. You could also look at your steps. You could also look at the floors, intensity minutes, etc., etc. But for my purposes here, I'm just going to go to cycling. So cycling for the last 7 days, I have nothing. But for the last 4 weeks, I have a couple things. So if I scroll down here, you can see the green line. So this is the distance totals in the last 4 weeks by week. And you could do the same thing by clicking the time, clicking the ascent, calories, etc. But if you scroll down here, it will actually show you the activities that you did there. So if you're wondering like, what activities did I do? How much did I do? Where did I go? So if I click into this first one here, which is Zwift Island Hopper. So this is the program that I use pretty much to do Zwift rides. And this shows you how I did it, what program I did it on. And then if you click into the map here, it will go and show you the map. And then you could click on the little triangle there and say, you know what? I want to see the terrain, and I'm going to move it around. And then it's just going to change the map view for you. And you could also take your 2 fingers here and click like that and go and click down into the map if you want. This is a lot more like useful for outdoor rides. This is just a virtual ride, right? So the terrain is not going to necessarily be like what it is. And then also too, like it has the little color graph here on the bottom. It says less power versus more power. So that is my cycling. And then every single activity here has different areas. So they're all basically the same. So you could get your first overview. You could add notes if you want, and then you could add a picture if you'd like. Stats. This shows you like the high level stats. What was my average speed? What was my maximum speed? How much time was I there? My heart rate, etc. And then anytime you see like the circle and the little graph there, if you click there, it'll go to the graph. But I'm not going to do that here. It's just a little tip for you. And now I'm going to go back up. If you have laps set, like this is more for laps on your bike computer or your watch, where if you say, hey, every mile I want it to auto lap, it will actually be in there. Next one is the charts. So this is the one that a lot of people use quite a bit. And if I scroll down here, it comes from the stats section that we talked about just a second ago. But here was my average power. Here was my heart rate. The cool thing about this is if you click into it, it's going to come up with another screen here. And it says double tap and pinch to zoom or zoom out. So I'm going to click X here. So I'm going to pinch, zoom in, zoom out with my fingers here. You can kind of see that on the screen. And then if you do, you hold your finger on the particular screen and then just scroll left to right, it works exactly the same. The cool thing about this screen as well, you can kind of get an overlay. So you can say, you know what, I want to see what my heart rate was. Oops. What my heart rate was based on a particular power. So if I click and hold my finger again, it's going to show me, all right, on this particular area, my watts was 229. My average beats per minute was 155. But if I keep scrolling over here, now I had 167 watts in 22 minutes and 58 seconds, and it was 150 beats per minute. You get the idea. But the cool thing is you can do overlays. But just remember, the first one that you actually click is the main overlay. So if I click on the elevation here, that one will come up first. The other one does not come up. So it's just whatever the first one you are, and then you say, you know what, I'm going to do the overlay over the first one that I clicked. Okay, so that is that. And then if you click on calories, calories is there too. And then if I click on just 1 year, it will give me the totals for the year. So what was my calories for the year? What was my distance for the year? You see how it changes based on the year? And then since I do have a lot of history here, I could click the arrow right to the left of the year. And then I could just keep clicking to the left, and you'll see my cycling was quite up there with my distance, and recently has gone down quite a bit. But that's because I've been lifting a lot more weights. So in March 20th to 2020 to February 21, I did 5,700 miles, virtually outside, etc. And then 4,500 the year after, 2,800 the year after, and then currently 537. So it's not a full year, of course. However, I've been lifting, as you know, so my cycling mileage has went down a lot. You can basically do the same thing with any of these other sections here. And I know some people are really into their steps, so you could just click into there. This will give you your 1 day step, your 7 days, and you could hold on the graph and left to right, right? I don't usually get a whole lot of steps. I just, like I do other things. And then over the last year, you could see how many steps you did. And the cool thing is, if you scroll down, you could see, okay, for these particular weeks, these are the steps that I have. So as you can tell, Garmin Connect has so much data if you log it. And I don't even have to think about it. I could just log it with my watch. So now here are my monthly totals for steps for the last year. So I did 1.9 million steps in the last year. Total distance is like 1,000 miles, right? And then here are my steps for those particular months. As you can see, that went down quite a bit. I was doing a little bit of running as well. But if I go and click on the arrow again and go to March 22 to 23, 1.7. I do the same thing, go back one more, 1.7, right? So there is so much data in here, and just sometimes it's a little bit overkill, but that is the activities section. Next section is performance stats. There is a lot to go over here. There's so many different areas of opportunity, and just to go over. So I don't use all of these, I'll be honest with you. So I'm going to skim through some of them, but if you have any questions on them, please let me know. But training status, I don't use that much because, it's kind of like the watch, the algorithm, it's going to, say what you're doing, what you're not. And since I'm not running or anything, and just biking rarely, my training status is always going to be like detraining. And if I go to the last 12 weeks, I've been detraining, I've been recovery, detraining. There's a lot to do, and there's a lot of things around this, but a lot of it obviously has to do with heart rate and VO2 max and running and a bunch of different things. Training readiness, same type of thing. So today, my training readiness was 84 out of 100. So it is high because my sleep score was okay. It wasn't that great. My recovery time, I didn't have to worry about it because I'm not running. What was my HRV status, which based on the watch. So it's just a algorithm score that comes out for your training readiness. And if I just click to the day before, all right, I'm in prime time now, yesterday. So it's because of my sleep score was better. My recovery was basically the same, etc. And I only take this particular section as well as the training status really with a grain of salt. That's just kind of one of those things. The next thing here is HRV status. So HRV, which is heart rate variable, it shows like your variable heart rate, your highest, your lowest, and it shows you like basically when you're sleeping. You could have this on during the day too, but I don't do that. I just have it on when I am sleeping, but it doesn't really mean a whole lot to me. Like as far as the score, I'm not going to pretend like I know a whole lot about it. However, if you press the help up here on the top right, it will actually tell you like, hey, heart rate variability is a measure of changes between successive heartbeats. So their HRV status measurement, which is first beat analytics, is taken while you sleep. It's a 7-day average. So it will come down here and just give you a little bit more details about it. I'm not going to read all this stuff, but I want you to know that it's there because some people that have heart conditions or other things, they look at this quite a lot. I just really don't. I just kind of look at the number for a second. It doesn't mean a whole lot to me, but you can look in the help section and it will give you the ideas. Next one is race predictor. This one is pretty cool if you run all the time. It will take your past performances, your VO2 max, and how much you've been running, all this stuff into consideration, and it will say, hey, this is what your predicted times for your marathon's going to be. 5 hours and 17 minutes. It's really slow. But I haven't been running, and when I do run, I typically walk on my watch, so it definitely, it's probably pretty accurate. Half marathon, 2:15. All right, that might be about right. I think I could probably struggle through a half marathon at this point at 2:15, but that still might be pushing it a little bit. But these race predictors, are based on kind of how you're doing, and then if you want to look at 6 months, 1 year, etc., and then if you click into help there, it will show you as well. VO2 max. I used to look at this all the time because I am very fast twitch. So I will look at the cycling VO2 max as well as the running VO2 max, etc. And if you look here, you click in and it'll say, hey, what's your fitness age based on the stats? And it says, they use 3 metrics for this: vigorous minutes, your resting heart rate, and your body fat percentage. So some people don't have the body fat percentage because they don't have a scale that connects. I do. So I have my Garmin index scale, which I talked about for a second. And if you see here, you say, hey, based on those factors that I just mentioned, the fitness age for me is 43. Well, I'm 46, as you know. However, if I increase vigorous minutes, running, sprints, cycling sprints type of things, and I do reduce my body fat, weekly average is 22, which I think is about right. Maybe a little bit less, but sometimes the scale is a little bit funny. But my resting heart rate is definitely on target. I could technically be an achievable of 39.5 if I do the things that they're saying here. So I'm more on that side. Like, hey, I'll rather do like short bouts of sprints, those type of things. And that is all about the VO2. And you could see 4 weeks, you could see 12 weeks, those type of things if you like. Click into there. Next up, next up is the training effect. I don't really have a whole lot in here because I haven't done a whole lot of stuff on the watch. Just remember, you have to record this stuff. So like on my 4 weeks, I have a couple things in here, but it really just goes down to my cycling that I did on Zwift and a couple other things. So this will probably be a little bit different for you if you use your watch all the time for running, etc. And if you click into help here, it will tell you like, hey, what is anaerobic? What is aerobic? What the primary benefit? It just gives you like the general ideas of those. I'm not going to go into those because that, like I'm sure that the video is going to be long enough, but you kind of go from there. Power curve, I would use this quite a bit with cycling, and it just basically says like, hey, your peak wattage, if you have a power meter, is this for 1 second, and this is what it is for 2 minutes. So it's the same thing here. You could press your finger and hold. So in 2 minutes, my peak wattage for the last 4 weeks is 225 watts, and my record is 393 watts. So that is for the particular time up there. And if I do 1 year here, it changes the numbers, as you can see. So my peak wattage for 2 minutes for the last year is 321 for power and 393. However, if I go back a couple years to when I was cycling quite a bit, actually, if I go back to 21, so if I go to 2 minutes again, 393 and 393. And if you go to 1 hour, 5 hours, 187. So I have a lot more history back because I used to cycle a lot, as I talked about. So the power curve is really cool. Like I like this a lot, especially if you're cycling, and it's really, really awesome. FTP, your functional threshold power, is a cycling metric based on how much you could hold your watts for 20 minutes. But this is like a 20-minute test, but they do say that you're really supposed to be able to hold this for 1 hour, and this is watts per kilogram, and that's just how they calculate it. And this is based on like my cycling FTP, 224 on December 23rd. Here's my weight, and if I go back to a year, you can kind of see it here, watts per kilogram, watts, those type of things. There's just so much data here that you could kind of get lost, but I don't look at that much. Lactate threshold, nothing on this thing here because I'm not really running a whole lot. So this has a lot of stuff based on the lactic acid and you can always push help here if you're looking like, hey, how do I get a measurement? Those type of things. So click here, how to get a measurement. You got to, set some heart rate zones and those type of things. Endurance score. This is, it's kind of a funny measurement, but basically on the Garmin 1040 Solar that I have, it shows like what my stamina is. So if I go down here to the right, like, well, what's my top contributors to my endurance? Well, biking, because I've been biking and I've been golfing a little bit and walking. So it's just like, hey, if you're running a lot, your endurance contributor is going to be running. Pretty makes sense, right? That just kind of gives you that. Hill score, not enough data because I don't do this, but if you run outside and you run hills quite a bit, it will show you like, hey, what's your hill score? And then last but not least, you got your HRV stress, which I don't have that turned on my watch because it kills the battery life and it really doesn't do a lot for me. But those are the performance stats sections, and we will now go to the next section. So the next section up is training and planning. So I'm just going to click into that. This is probably one of the most misunderstood sections in this particular area. So there are things that you can do and workouts that you can do that will actually go to your watch. So let's just say that you want to run 400 meters and then walk for 100 meters or walk for 1 minute and then run for another 400 and then walk for another minute. You could actually go in here and create them and send them to your watch, which is kind of cool. So that's the first section here is the workout section. So I already have workouts in here. Some of them I created myself. Some of them are just from way past. So if you want us to do one of these workouts, for example, you could schedule it on the calendar, which we're going to talk about, or you can create one. So I'll show you how to create one real quick. So if I just press create workout, I'm just going to do a running workout. And okay, so you could add notes and here's the steps. So right now I'm going to warm up and it's going to be via the button press. It'll tell you what to do when you actually do it. And then I'm going to run for 1 mile and then I'm going to cool down after I press the lap button. But you know what? I want to add a repeat here. So I'm going to add a repeat, which it brings it up, and I'm going to repeat this 1, 2, 4 times. I'm going to run 1 mile. This is my estimated time, and I'm going to recover for 3. If you want to change this, you just have to click into the section and then go and change the metrics. So I'm going to, all right, do that. So you would think that there's a save section in here, but there is not. So you actually just go back, and then I'm going to click into run. I'm kind of doing this a little bit fast, but I'm going to run for, I'm just going to run for time instead of distance here. And I'm going to run for 5 minutes, right? Because it's a little bit different. And if I want to set an intensity target, I click there. So this is like the area of like, hey, I'm going to run between 130 heart rate and I'm going to run between 130 and 150. Okay. So now I am here, 130 to 150 beats per minute. So when I'm running for 5 minutes, my watch will be beeping at me if I'm not in between 130 and 150. It's kind of a nifty little feature. And then after that, I'm going to recover for 1 minute. So basically it's going to come up on your watch and say, hey, recover. And then it's going to do that 4 times. And after the 4th time, it's going to cool down. So I'm done. I'm ready. I press save on the top right here, and I'm going to do like test. And then I'm going to press save. So you will see it now in your workouts. So you could do one of 2 things. You could schedule it on the calendar, or you could send it to your watch. So if you look at the screen, there's a little, looks like a phone up there with the arrow. If you click there, you could click on any of your devices that are connected, and then you could automatically send it to your watch. If you press the little 3 buttons there, you could add the workout to the calendar, which is what I recommend. You add it to the calendar, which day you want to do it, and then on that particular day, it will come up on your watch and say, hey, you have this test workout to do. It takes some planning and it takes some doing to put these things in the calendar, but as soon as you have your core ones in here, all you have to do is send them to there, and it's like works out really, really well. So the workout section is awesome. It's really, really nice. And the benchmark workouts, you know, there are just sample workouts in here. Like, hey, this is what I want to do, and I want to set that. So workouts is probably one of the most underutilized sections, but it's one of the coolest sections if you know how to use it. Training plans. So Garmin Connect has training plans for 5K, 10K, etc. If you click into one of them, I want to set up a plan. And then this is like, hey, you know what? Do you want to do you want to do this? And then you could say, hey, what is my weekly distance? And from there, it's automatically going to schedule a plan for you. I'm going to exit out because I'm not going to do that. But it's pretty cool. Like if you like, hey, you know what? I want a half marathon plan. It's already in here. So you just have to schedule it. tell it how much you want to run, and it will actually do that for you. The next one is courses, which will have courses that you have created for yourself if you do create one. So if you use, if you write a course and then you like that route, you can create a course and it will actually do it from there. The next one is Pace Pro strategies. This is the new thing that Garmin came out with a couple years ago, which basically shows you how to run a marathon and how to pace it, or how to run a 10K, etc. So I'm going to create a strategy. I'm just going to select race distance and I'm going to do a marathon, right? I'll probably die right now. So my goal time for the marathon, let's just say, is 6 hours. And this is my goal pace. So what it does, it will create a program on your watch that says, hey, you know what? My goal time is 6 hours. My goal pace based on that is 13 minutes and 44 seconds per mile. So every mile is what I want my splits to be. And if I'm going to come to scroll down here on the distance section, if I say, you know what, in the first half, I want to run a little bit faster, I'm just holding my finger down here and just moving the screen. And on the second half, I'm going to run a little slower because I think I'm going to be a little faster, a little slower. If you kind of scroll down here to this next section. So, okay, based on what I did up at the top there, my first mile, 12:44, 12:27, you can see that I'm getting slower as I move along into the marathon. But if I'm going to get to 6 hours, I have to run the last 1.2 miles in 18 minutes and 37 seconds. And then the second to last mile, 15 minutes, etc. This is a really cool thing because if you don't want to write something down on your arm or whatever, you could go in here and create a Pace Pro strategy. So you just say, yeah, test, all right, perfect. And then I go back, go down to the bottom here, and then I press save. Now, all I have to do is send it to my watch. And when I run a race, I could say, hey, you know what? This is my goal time. This is what I want to do. This is a really cool thing that I think a lot of people don't use as much as they could because they're thinking, I'm good. I just have to run this. But they don't think about the course and they don't think about what they're going to do. So Pace Pro, I think it's just a cool thing that they actually did. Power Guide's the next one. So if I click into there, just think about Power Guide as I'm doing a half Ironman, and that is 56 miles if I remember correctly. I want to make sure that I get to the finish line in 2 hours and 30 minutes for 56 miles. Well, this will tell you, based on the course and the elevation and the power data, what power that you need to ride at for the particular course in order to make that time. So when you're looking down at your bike computer and you're saying, well, I have to be there in 2 hours and 30 minutes, that's my goal time. The bike computer will say, based on the power guide, the elevation, the course, you have to ride at 200 or 170 average normalized power, which is like the power over the entire ride. You know, with hills, you know, you're going to go faster downhill, uphill, etc., or slower uphill. This is what you need to do based on that. So it's really kind of like Pace Pro, but it's for cycling. This is a really cool thing. You do need a power meter for it, but most people that have a bike nowadays pretty much have a power meter. But this is available if you're really like goal oriented and you want to finish in a particular time. It will show you how to do that. Segments are one of those things too that if you want segments through Strava, you can compete for them. I don't do them anymore, to be honest. Like, it's just kind of a waste even when I'm out there. I'm just out there for enjoyment, having a good time. And then last but not least, this is just a new thing that Garmin did about a year ago, which is jet lag advisor. It will basically say, hey, this is your flight. I'm going to add my trip into here, departure date. I'm going to add my arrival time. It's going to kind of tell you like, hey, this is like how much you need to recover based on the jet lag that you have based on the trip. It's kind of a funny thing. I don't travel as much as I used to, so I would never, I haven't used it, so I can't really talk a whole lot about it. Next section we're going to talk about is gear. So this one is pretty self-explanatory, but we'll just go through it really quickly. You can add in your shoes, you could add in your bike, you could add in everything, and it'll track that. This is really like kind of good for people that use shoes and that have shoes that they run with, because there's only a certain amount of mileage they can get out of them. Some people are really sensitive to this, so you can add your shoes, you could add your bikes as well, and then you could add any other types of gear that you'd like, and just tell it like, hey, what items did I retire? So you could look back and see how many miles you have on your shoes, particularly. A lot of people do this. But just remember, on each ride or each activity, you have to have that linked to your particular area for it to track it. So it's pretty self-explanatory on this. Next one is insights. So insights really are kind of just high-level points of view for you as an athlete. So it goes over and says, hey, you know what? For running, here is the Garmin users, and this is the average distance that you have and average pace, etc. So essentially, you're just kind of Garmin's comparing you to the data that they have in there. I really don't look at this section hardly at all, but it's kind of interesting, especially if you want to see kind of how you stack up based on your age bracket. Cycling, I'm faster than 80% of the users that they have in here. I don't know if that's really true or not. Swimming, I haven't done any swimming in a long time, so there's no data there. But I have done some stuff, and really, like, you're in the green area, so you kind of just see how you stack up for that. This one, I log 62% more hours of sleep than other users. I'm actually really proud of that one. I like that one a lot. So, and of course, you could view all the insights, and these are just like, hey, little things that they send you that you could also look at. You get enough sleep, just little consistent things that they talk about. The connection section, this is where you could friend people for Garmin Connect. I know a lot of people use Strava, but you could look at family and friends here, so you can invite friends. You could, look for them that way. You could search for them on the top right-hand side. Like, hey, I'm going to search for some friends and find them via the contacts. But this is just really where the connections are. On your group section, if you're part of any groups, they will actually be in here. And if you click into the groups, you could see what activities those particular people have done that are in that particular section. I don't have a lot in here. I used to have some more, but I deleted quite a bit of them. I think a lot of people don't really know that it's there. And then that is basically all for the more section, but we have 2 or 3 more sections, and then we're basically done. So I know the video has been long. Thank you for sticking with me. Hopefully I'm going through it and making sure that you're understanding this, but it is detailed for Garmin Connect Mobile. So remember, when I push the edit here, I just moved some stuff around. So I have health stats, news, feed, and the calendar. We're going to go actually right to left on this one. So in the calendar section, this one can be very helpful, but when you look at it on the screen here now, you're probably like, wow, there's a lot of stuff there. Well, there is. Remember, we created that workout and we put it on the 24th. So if I just click on the 24th, it says, hey, there's the test and here is the workout that we have. So on the 24th, as long as I sync my watch or whatever, it will connect. And then on that particular day, it will say, hey, your workout is scheduled to come up that we created. Onto the section as well, you could look in the past, you could see what's there. And then if you click the 3 little dots here, you could filter your calendar, which I 100% recommend doing because you don't want to actually see all this stuff. I like looking at my activities and my sleep score and blood pressure, my weight, and my body battery. And then I want to see if I have any workouts scheduled, etc. So I just went through there and I just clicked off some of them. So now you can see it is much less cluttered. So if I click into the 21st here, it will show me all of the stuff that I just filtered out. It's kind of nice if you just want to see one particular view, especially in the past, because remember, In order to see the past stuff, you have to kind of go back in time and click the arrow button, but you could do it pretty easily on the calendar, and you could go right to left, and it does save everything here. So on the 3rd of January, I had something going on. Oh, I had a Zwift race. I did a couple Zwift rides. See my sleep score, see my heart rate, and my body battery, which I love body battery, to be honest. So that is the calendar. It's really cool because you could schedule stuff and look at it there, but a lot of people probably don't use it as much. This one is the news feed, and I just put it on myself. So for privacy reasons, for other people that are my friends on here, they don't probably need to see that, but you can see on my news feed here, I did a Zwift ride, I did another Zwift ride, a couple other things. And this is where I talk about, like, you could put pictures on here, which is kind of cool, and you could look into each one of these. So if you have friends or whatever, if you click the 3 buttons here, you could actually sort, like, I want to see everybody, or I just want to see my connections. I just have it for only me now. And then you could also do the activity type if you choose to do so. So I only want to see cycling versus running, etc. And that will do it for everybody depending on what you select. And then on the health stats, this is the last section, but there is a lot more stuff here on the health area. Sleep score to me is very important. So I'm going to click into there, and it just shows you kind of how you're doing for your sleep for the last day. But I really look at the trends over time. So I'm going to click on the 4 weeks, and you could press your finger on the screen again and just kind of see what your sleep score is for the months. But I really do like going down and seeing, like, what my sleep duration is. Did I meet it? Did I not? What's going on these particular dates? What does my sleep consistency look like? What's my normal bedtime? Yes, it's like midnight, and I get up at 8 in the morning. But here is, like, just insights. So if you're looking at trends over time, you can see them. Next one is the weight. So like I told you before, I do have the Garmin index scale, and it does track my weight, and it also tracks my body fat percentage, my bone mass, my body water. The body fat percentage has a lot to do with, like, the water weight. And remember, when I get on the scale, it just, as long as I have my socks off, it just shoots like a current up through my body, and it comes back down, and then it kind of just figures out that data there. However, though, I use this a lot. So I've had the Garmin index scale for quite a while. You could put in your goal weight in here if you'd like. I have one, but I can't remember what it is. But if you look at this particular year, if I just go right to left or left to right, I have been gaining weight over the last year, which is totally fine. That's actually by design, because remember, I was cycling a lot. A lot. So I think my lowest weight, I was like 165 or something like that. And now, as of this morning, I was 194. However, I have been able to really work on the muscle that I have. I showed you a couple of videos there, and that's what I want. Honestly, my body fat percentage has gone up a little bit, but my muscle body mass has increased twofold. I've gained probably 10 pounds of muscle in the last year and a half, probably. I don't know for sure because I haven't done a DEXA scan, but it's gotten a lot better. If I scroll down here, this gives me my averages. So the last year, I've averaged 187 pounds. My average body fat was 20%. And here are my weigh-ins. This is why that I do this stuff, so then I can look back at history and kind of look back and see. But if I do the little arrow again, right, press the arrow to the left. Now here is all my weigh-ins for 22 to 23. Same thing, 21 to 22, and then 20 to 21. So I have measurements all the way back to 2020. So here, average 170 pounds. And if I go to the next year, 175, and 20 to 22, 175. So I've been able to maintain 175, 180, since I stopped drinking, those type of things, and just really started to take care of myself a little bit better. My body weight has went up. My averages have went up in the last year because I've been lifting weights and muscle does way more than fat. So this is cool. If you want me to do a video on the Garmin index scale, I definitely will because I love that scale. It's a scale. I know a lot of people get all freaked out about scale, but this is how I keep myself and hold myself accountable. It's not for everybody, 100%, but it works for me. Calories, pretty self-explanatory. How many calories did I do in the last 7 days? How many active calories? You could look back at that. Calories in versus calorie out. So if you use like MyFitnessPal, it's connected to this. I really don't track my food that much anymore because I pretty much eat the same things over and over, but it will show it here and it will show like how many calories you ate versus what your active is and what's your deficit, those type of things. Pulse OX. This is something that I don't have enabled on my watch, but it is the SpO2 reading, basically what's your blood oxygen level. And I've actually tested my watch versus the one that they have in the hospital. I went to the hospital a couple years ago and my watch was really dang close. So I don't usually have it active. I know some people do have it active just at night, which you can do that, or you could have it active all day, but it does really drain your battery a lot. Or you could just do a one-off SpO2 OX calculation. So you could do that as well. I haven't done any in forever, so I don't have any data on there. Same thing, the Pulse LX acclimation data, same type of thing. You could look into the help and kind of see what's there. Respiration, this is like what's my respiration rate, and I wear my watch all the time, so you could see it's 14 beats a minute on average for my sleep, and the wake is basically the same thing. My heart rate doesn't really vary that much at all, so that's why my respiration really hasn't changed. Heart rate, you get the idea here. We're kind of getting towards the end, but there's my resting heart. We kind of talked about this a little bit. Blood pressure, this is not on here because I do not have a watch that has the blood pressure, and it doesn't actually do that. So I know there's new watches that out to do that, but this one does not, which is totally fine with me. My blood pressure is really low anyways, like silly low. So it's just kind of a thing. So stress, it goes off a body battery. So this will tell you the stress that you've had throughout the day. Have you had any stress? This one for me is actually pretty accurate if I'm going to get sick. And then you'll see like just the orange line just going up on the screen here. And it's like, wow. But a lot of this has to do with like your resting heart rate, your sleep. And if you see a lot of stress, your daily average will be up there. So if I clicked on the last 7 days here, you can see in the orange that the stress is actually not very high. I have a lot more blue than I do orange, which I know that might not be. That's probably opposite of some people, but I tend to not have super stressful situations, which is good. But usually when I get sick, I do have a lot of stress. Body battery is probably my favorite. I love this. It's pretty, it goes on heart rate, it goes on resting heart rate, it goes on sleep. Essentially, like when you wake up, if you slept well, it tries to get back to 100, and then the body battery goes down. So if you think about it, it's self-explanatory. Like, hey, I'm doing stuff, I'm getting more tired, I have less energy towards the end of the day. So right now I have a 33 out of 100. And yesterday I started at a 68 and I ended at a 27. It's just because I didn't necessarily sleep that great. I charged 41 at night and I drained 40. But if I just keep scrolling back here, 88 was a high there, 77, 79. You get the idea. But body battery to me is just awesome. I love it. It works great. Hydration. If you go into here, you could add in, if you track your hydration, you could say, you know what, I had 8 ounces, and I can just click into there. There's a widget in your watch as well. Most of the new watches that have the hydration, or I want to add 26 ounces. Some people love tracking this. I personally don't, because I just know that I need to drink 2 of my Big Yeti things and call it good. Fitness age, we kind of already went over that already. What do you need to do to change this stuff? So I'm not going to go into that. And then good old health snapshot. You can do this on your watch. Last time I did it was in 2022. Basically, it goes through and it takes a snapshot based on like a reading that you're sitting there, and just takes a little test on your watch, what your respiration is, what your stress, a couple different things. Some people like to do this. I personally do not. So that is the end of the video. I'm just going to say that there is a lot of stuff here. Go in here, play around, click on the stuff. If you have any questions, let me know. I would say close to an expert in here because I use this all the time. You love Garmin Connect. I love my Garmin watches that I've had in the past, and I love my Tactics watch, as you said. So I really, really do enjoy this, and I look at this data quite a bit, not into huge detail. I tend to look at the 7-day kind of the resting. I do look at body battery quite a bit, and I do look at my weight quite a bit. Yes, I know it's one of those things. It's not necessarily healthy for some people. For me, it works out totally fine. So I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you got something out of this, and I went into detail as much, and it wasn't as confusing as it might seem, but I get it. It is a lot of data in there. The good news is that is there, and if you want to see it, you can, but you don't necessarily need to look at it if you don't want to. So with that, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it, and you all have a great day.